Right, I love it.
Tamam. Gider.
love that.
Wow, that was a lot.
A lot of what? Time, a lot of
Oh,
music, a lot of.
it was a lot of everything. That was a lot of chords. It was a lot of but it was a lot of time between now and then.
I I really loved it.
Oh, good. I love hearing. I mean, that's the great Reinhard Melz on drums and John Wiitala on the bass.
Say
And
that say that again.
John Wiitala was playing bass, Bay Area guy, and Reinhard Melz from here on the drums. He plays on the road quite a bit with Pink Martini. I think they're pretty well known around. Yeah, so those guys, and Liz Cole did the videography back from your neck of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember her telling me that. Oh, I should send her a little message. I'm going to send her a little message that you're on because I totally forgot that. I love Liz Cole.
Yep.
Liz Cole. Randy Porter is on the show today. I think she's
About
working.
you in front of your back.
Yeah, I think she's working. But anyway, cool. That's very cool. So, was that in San Francisco though?
No, she came up to Portland to do that. So that was my studio where I'm sitting now. Actually, I'm in the control room, but right over there.
It looked like a pretty roomy studio.
Yeah, it's a big building. It's really funky in a lot of ways. It's an old shed. They built boats here, or the guy that owned the property built sailboats, and he would start them here and then he'd finish them outside. So it's a long property. It's this building is 300 feet long.
Oh wow.
100 feet wide, so it's kind of long and narrow. And I've just chopped it up into a lot of little pieces for various things. But most of it is my studio.
Cool. Very cool. Wow. I forgot you were in Portland. I don't know why I forgot. Anyway, I did.
But
Well, Joyce Glasgow says hi. She's from Seattle. You know her?
I'm sorry, who?
Joyce Glasgow.
Yes, I know the name.
She's a jazz fan and an artist, and she's in Seattle. And also Taylor Hatch, the guitarist, and he said,
Hello
"Oh
to
my God, it's been too long."
tons of people. I'm bad about the promotion thing. I think I did get it up on Facebook at the last minute because I had put it up on my Facebook and then I realized it was not viewable to anybody except for me.
Oh,
So I had to change that. But anyway, hopefully there's some people out there.
well, I have a bunch of people too, so it's cool. Randy, we actually did meet a long time ago at Jazz Camp West, but it was really a long time ago.
Yeah.
I don't know. It could have been 15 years ago or something. I don't know.
For over 20 years.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it.
Yeah, that was cool. I only
Yeah.
taught there that 1 year, I think, but it was fun. Jay Clayton was there that year, and
Oh yeah. Yeah.
yeah, Christine Helferich, and
Yep.
yeah, that was
I love Camp West. Everybody there is like family.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, and you must have seen them grow up too. Like
Some
from,
of them definitely. Well, the Pressman kids and others, yeah.
yeah, I was
remember
thinking of the Cressman kids. Yeah.
but there's quite a few. You see the kids grow up, and now some of them are running things, and, taking over in a good way.
Let's see. I'm just checking that out. Oh, I guess you played with Taylor at the Cuesta College Vocal Jazz Festival in 2019.
Yeah.
And he said he thinks that you and George Stone have a connection too. But
Yes.
he can't remember how you guys met originally.
We might have originally met George. I might have met George at Reno for the first time at the Reno Jazz Festival, where I used to be a regular adjudicator there, and yet another sleep deprivation fest.
It's all for the
Yeah.
yeah, whatever that is.
Pause.
The cause, right?
That one though, because people stay up late wherever, all these festivals. But on that one, you really have to get up early. You get up and you get a shuttle, and then you start listening to big bands at 7:30 in the morning. So that one in particular is tricky.
I think adjudicating is really hard
Yeah.
because of that. It's a lot of time and lots of listening over and over and over again.
Yep.
I think it's challenging.
It is hard. And then, yeah, I think most of us inherently think that putting numbers to artistic performance feels wrong in some kind of way.
And
But
do you ever like in the beginning of the day feel like like the people are going to get better numbers than at the end, or vice versa? Just because you're tired or you've heard a million people, or I always wonder about that.
yeah, that definitely is a concern because you want to be fair to everybody.
Yeah.
Just have some sort of like absolute mark. You could always try to be fair. And if you're going to put a number to it, try to make sure it's the same number you'll put to it tomorrow, or,
Yeah.
late in the afternoon tomorrow as you would early on the first day. That's hard. It's really hard.
I have to tell you a funny story about one time when I adjudicated. I won't say where or whatever, but I did it for a few years. And the last time I did it, nothing. I'm a very calm person. I have a very high level of bullshit tolerance, and but I do lose it, and I actually mostly I lose it over music. Like
Yeah.
if music is really mistreated, I literally go berserk. It's like I have Tourette syndrome or something, and so I was listening to all these vocal groups, right?
Yeah.
And this one school, who luckily I don't even remember the name of the school, but they came out, and the soloists were so obviously absolutely clueless, and it was obviously the teacher's fault, right? It was like no clue at all. And I started, you have that tape recorder,
Yeah.
and you're supposed to say inspiring things. So I started talking, but as it went on, I started losing it. And finally, I was actually saying to him, "What are you teaching these kids? You're like, there's nothing going, And that was the last year I went there.
Yeah. I famously, I think I can say this now, without fear. But, I was the bad judge. The first year I did that festival in Reno, that one in particular, they tell you the scores are like in this range, and I kind of misunderstood or didn't get it. And so I didn't have it high enough because I must have left room to hear like Herbie Hancock or Peter, and they weren't going to. And so I left all this room at the top, and I gave low scores. And I had judges. I mean, I had high school band directors following me around the campus, complaining if they figured out that I was the bad judge. I got talked to by the festival director saying, "You screwed up, but don't change a thing. Stay exactly like you did. Otherwise, it'll mess up the scores for the future people." But so in the future, they always gave a speech at the beginning of each, when they're telling the judges, what to do and what not to do. And I was the example of how or because what I thought, well, that was a 4. Yeah. That was a 5. And all of that should have been like 6, 7, 8, like that. And I learned.
The bad judge, man. I don't feel so bad now.
Yeah, I was the bad judge. But I'm talking, I don't know, a long time, 25 years ago, or at least, or something, But they don't forget, people don't forget.
Yeah, that's true. Craig Cochran is here. He said hi, and he'll see you in June.
Yeah. Great.
So, first, I just want to jump into Dave Friesen, and and then who else? Charles McPherson, and I want to jump into there first because I just think that's pretty exciting. Can you tell us how you got into working with them and how long it was, and did you enjoy it? I'm sure you did, but.
Well, Charles was first. I'll start with Friesen at the moment. So that when I moved to Portland, I started meeting different people and met David Friesen, and he has a very interesting style that at first it seems kind of specific, like the things that you don't want to do are fairly, there's a lot of them, but that's true for a lot of different styles. But then you realize that the things that you can do are like, maybe it's more free than a lot of other kinds of music. Like it wouldn't be uncommon for us to pause in the middle of a song that we're playing and let other sounds take over and leave this big space and start up again. We didn't do a lot of key changing in that way, where like we started in one key and ended in another key, unless it was arranged. But we did change a lot of elements on the fly. And then his harmonic thing is really interesting. There's a lot of chord over chord stuff, and his compositions I think are fascinating. And Alan Jones is a part of that. And that's one of my favorite trio playing I've ever been part of, is Dave Friesen and Alan Jones.
And how long were you together?
Oh, sometimes it doesn't seem all that official. Like, I don't know if it has an end date.
Oh, I see.
We didn't play much. Well, we haven't played much in the last, say, 5 years or something like that, but we did do a COVID concert here at my studio that we streamed, and it was good. He started playing the electric, it's like a homage bass or something. It's got a name, but it's one of those more easy to travel with. It's a smaller scale, and it's a direct signal. And so, and maybe I'm getting more conservative with the sounds that I want to be more, I don't know if conservative is the right word, but more acoustic minded. I like to hear acoustic bass, and he was doing his thing. So I haven't been playing with him that much. I don't think Alan has either, but he's still out there doing it. And I think he did a piano record, which sounds really cool. Friesen, that is. So, but I guess we stopped working. I'm not good with dates, but I'm going to say maybe 8 years ago or so, where we weren't working with him much anymore. But we had.
What was Dave on ECM?
It seems like he would have been a good fit for that label, and I don't know if he did record some for them or not. But in kind of like in ethos and spirit of how he plays, that's kind of what I think of as like that. It fits the ECM.
Yeah. I haven't followed his career in more recent years, but now that we're talking, I'm going to go dig him up and listen. Maybe there's something on here. Oh, Liz Cole is here.
Hey, Liz.
She said it's great to see your face. Is there some recordings with him that we could listen to, maybe?
An album called, I think it's Live in Stockholm. There's a live one. And there's one called The Name of a Woman. The first one was called 1, 2, 3. But if Name of a Woman is on there, that was a studio album. I think
Name of a Woman. Should I say Friesen or you?
Yeah, David Friesen is the leader.
I think it's here. So we'll listen to that. But let's talk for a little bit too. Where are you from originally?
San Diego. Yeah.
I dug the vibe of San Diego this weekend.
It may have changed a bit, but I think it's the weather kind of plays a factor in the vibe, and that hasn't changed. Well, actually, that has changed a bit, but traffic and all that has changed. But it's beautiful down there. It's not fair being here in Portland. I'm freezing already. Over here, it's like 30 degrees.
Well, I'll make you feel better. It was freezing over the last few days. So,
my mom said, yeah,
it was really cold. But
she's from Mexico, so it's all cold.
Yeah, really. Yeah, but it was beautiful, and you could just feel like I don't know, it was interesting. It was calm, but I guess it's kind of a student town too. I mean, right? Because it felt like students were everywhere.
Yes,
or maybe it was where I was.
I mean, if you're near UCSD or if you're near San Diego State, you definitely have that vibe. But other places, it feels like maybe there's a lot of young people and they like to go downtown, and so you see them around. I didn't think of that as a student area, but those schools, San Diego State and UCSD, are big campuses.
If you go back there to visit your mom, you should get a gig at the Jazz Lounge with Leonard Patton.
Oh, right. That's Leonard's place. Yeah, I knew Leonard back in the day. Like, he was great way back when, like 30 some years ago. Yeah. So I'm glad to see you doing that.
Yeah, it was. And
Get
it
it done.
was, yeah, it was a great band. You'd probably know at least the drummer. What's his name? He's been around for, he's like almost my age. He's fantastic drummer.
Well, I'm thinking, what was it, Duncan Moore?
Yes.
Oh, I love Duncan. He came up and visited for a couple days at one point. Came up here, but I absolutely love Duncan.
He's
Hello.
so good. He's like,
Yeah,
it's funny because we haven't worked together in
yeah,
maybe it might have been 35 years or 30 years, but I always remembered him because he was so good. He always remembered me. And this time, he's the kind of drummer that is really connected to me while I'm singing and I guess treating me like an instrument and, kind of doing these things, reacting to me so that I can,
yeah.
I can further react. And it's really so satisfying. And the bass player, Justin, he's a younger guy, but oh, killer. And Ed Kornhauser on piano. It was quite the band.
Oh, nice. Good. Yeah. Did people turn out there?
Yeah, and actually, it was a Ella and Louie show, so I sang
Oh,
with
man.
Leonard, and we had a good time. I haven't done that thing for so long. It was really fun.
Otto. I love that record. That's, talk about Desert Island Records. That couldn't contain how happy I felt when I first heard that song, and what goes on between Ella and Louis on that record. It's ridiculous.
It's totally cool. Actually, there's two,
Two
two,
records.
two
Yeah.
records, yeah. But
I
then,
only, and so I grew up thinking of it as the record, but yeah. But
yeah,
yeah, let's
and
call the whole Stomping at the Savoy, what is it? Birds Do It.
yeah,
Love
um,
record.
and yeah, let's call the whole thing off. Was so
Yeah.
fun. And Stars Fell on Alabama. I've never
Yeah.
sung that song before, and it's such
That
a
was all Ella, right?
beautiful song. Sorry?
On that record, was that all Ella? Or does Louis sing with her on that song?
Yes, he sings on
Okay.
every song with her.
Yeah.
Oh,
I,
it's
I thought I thought there might have been a couple songs where they did a song by themselves, and I couldn't remember which one it was.
actually, I'm not, to tell you the truth, I am not sure because
Oh
I
yeah,
only listened to the ones in the show.
yeah,
And I hadn't, that wasn't my grow up listening record to Ella, so,
yeah,
um, yeah, but it's a beautiful record. The two of them are just adorable together.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still like Stomping at the Savoy. Her solo, I can still play it. I'm like a lot of it. It just stuck in my head.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Have you been a fan of singers over the years?
Oh, I mean, they hit me really hard right away. I mean, that record, that was what I knew of jazz singing was Ella and Louis. I didn't have a lot of records early on, but that was the one, more than any other. So you picked the right one. Later on, I did, start listening to them and working with them. I mean, not with Ella, but working a lot with different singers. Yeah, I mean, the earliest jazz records, getting into jazz when I was in my maybe late teens or so,
Uh-huh.
it was Ramsey Lewis and Errol Garner. Those were the records that I got from my stepfather.
Yeah.
He's probably watching or will be. And so, yeah, Ramsey Lewis, Errol Garner, and then later Oscar Peterson. But along with that came Ella and Louis. And I didn't like a big record collection, but that started it out.
Classic, man. Wow. Yeah. That's so cool. Yeah, my dad was a sax player, so I listened to his records. And Stan Kenton,
Yeah.
Ella, yeah, my twin sisters who were older than me, they sang too. So the high lows were like,
Later on, I was a big fan of the Gene Perling and those,
yeah,
the ensemble groups, which is great.
yeah,
Man,
fantastic,
it's like it doesn't get beat by anything. It's like the harmony is so inventive.
gorgeous. And you know, uh, my God, his name just escaped me. It's on the tip of my tongue. He's
Young older.
the tenor in the high-lows. Clark Burrows. Yeah, he's still around. He's older. He's around 90, and but he's adorable. What a
That's great.
adorable guy. And yeah, we've been tickled to death by watching like him with Johnny Mercer in a movie, like the
Yeah.
two of them clowning around when he was, I don't know, he must have been 22 or something.
Wow.
It was great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Clark. Yeah, and of course, you've played with Nancy King, who, for somebody like me, is one of the queen jazz
Oh,
singers. You
yeah.
know, she's not like the last word on people's lips, but she's also not, she's not a totally forgotten singer either, but she's just
Yeah.
one of the queens.
Yeah. What are they saying these days? If you know, you know, or something like that. If you know Nancy King, you know. She is considered by so many of the singers who have more, esteem or whatever, more fame than she has. Just like, no, she's the real deal. She's ridiculous. And we feel really lucky that she's around in Portland. Every once in a while she will sing out. She doesn't sing out much, but I talked to her not too long ago on the phone. She was talking about like, yeah, maybe we'll do a weekly gig or a monthly gig. And I don't think it's happened, but
That I'd be really surprised at that, but
yeah, I mean, our best jazz club is the 1905, and it is a substantial jazz club now. It's really nice,
yeah.
and it's almost walking distance from Nancy King's house, coincidentally. So I'm like, oh, Nancy, I'll pick you up, and we'll do the gig. She's a little reclusive still.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, yeah. Nancy,
Yeah.
great person. She came down and did a few workshops at my studio and with Steve, and it was great. Yeah, it was really fun, fun to have her.
She's hilarious too.
Yeah,
I mean,
quite the character.
total character. Yeah, you like driving. If like we've driven to Eugene or wherever we drive, we get in a car with Nancy. She will keep you entertained. Great.
Yeah, great stories. Okay, so what about Charles McPherson?
Yeah, he's probably my mentor in jazz, and I'm so in debt to him. So I don't know where to start. Played his wedding before I really knew him that well to Lynn, and I don't know how old I was, 20 or something. He's been married for a long time, and I played it on a DX7, and it was maybe just after the wedding. There's a little reception somewhere. Charles can straighten this all out later, but I was so intimidated, and then I think there was a jazz saxophone quartet that played that was part of the wedding ceremony, and Paul Sunfer, who was Lynn's brother, was part of that, I think. And so they said, oh, let's just call a tune. How about, I think it was what is that, Oliver Nelson Blues and the Abstract Truth. There was something from that, and I didn't know. It's like you're playing, I'm reading this chart, and then it becomes a stretch out blues and something like B or something like that, and I'm on a DX7, and Charles plays the most amazing thing I've ever heard, played by a jazz soloist and been in the same room with. And then here I am on a DX7 with the tines that are really cheap sounding. It's like, and over the years, though, just being around him has taught me so much. I got on my screen here. Yeah. So that I only started with that only because that was like one of the first experiences I had. Him with Butch Lacey when I was in high school, I guess, which goes back a little before that date. And it was exactly what I wish I could do, but had no access to, like, how do they play like that? And so I went up to Butch Lacey later afterwards and asked if he taught. And after that, I started having some lessons with Butch, which is like lessons back in those days. So those were actually, I had never had a jazz lesson before.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then, so was the wedding the beginning of you playing with Charles, or?
I think that was random. We had some gigs at Hilario's. What were those like? Oh man, I don't really remember when. I'm terrible with dates. I can lose track of 10, 15, 20 years. So I know I was lucky to do it. I was young, but I started playing with Charles and Jeff Littleton and Chuck McPherson. And it might have been in the mid 90s or something like that. More when I moved back to Portland. No, sorry, 90s, no, 80s.
Was Charles in Portland?
Yeah, Charles has been. Oh, sorry, no, I meant to say San Diego. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Confusing. Yeah, in San Diego.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, just taking a peek at the bio that I copied over, um, there's a lot of Charles uh, orchestra type of stuff that you did with, and you traveled a
Yeah.
lot with the quartet.
It's Charles playing the music that was from the album where of Charlie Parker with strings. And so I took those songs, and there were some arrangements that were found that were original, and then I contributed some orchestral arrangements on that. And we toured around to Detroit and I can't remember, Kansas City. So we played with some different. We played in LA. That was really fun. I don't know how I ended up doing it, but I was conducting, playing some of that, and I didn't have a whole lot of experience doing that, so it was a good good experience as a starting point. Later on, I did some more conducting, but I think that might have been the start.
You must have been pretty young.
Yeah, and inexperienced.
Yeah, but good, because otherwise, you wouldn't have been doing it.
We got through the stuff.
I like that.
Charles is so
Through
strong.
it.
And it's you're gonna be okay. You just hear him play, and it's just thing. If you've ever heard Charles play live, his sound is so commanding.
That's so cool. I love that.
Yeah, and I mean, more than just the sound, his whole philosophy and aesthetic, and his ability to communicate what's important in music, and in his eyes, which often seems like it's just truth, to me, is incredible. So just being around him and hearing him talk is one of the few people that, if like I was going to study from, it wouldn't require any playing. If you didn't want to play, you just listen to him, and what he has to say about things can change what you do in the future.
And are you talking about him talking about life or talking about music?
He's very broad and can talk about philosophy, life, and large things. But I guess I'm talking about music and how elements of life, play into it. But it would be about music and maybe some of the whys as to why we play this way or that way, and and things that are just like global, universal truths about if you're gonna play, then ... And stuff he says just always seems really insightful.
I gotta say, I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that's a big joy, you know. And actually, a lot of these talks, I've talked to people who talk like that, and it's always thrilling for me and
Yeah.
inspirational, you know.
Yeah.
People like Bob Moses, you know, just you can't help it, man. He's a
Yeah.
philosopher, you know. And
Charles is like that.
yeah,
Yeah. Sometimes you hear him start a sentence, and if he has a little pause, you kind of think like you could fill in the spot and say the word. And then when he says it, it's better and different than you thought and more true. Then it's like, okay, this guy's deep.
it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Ah, I could just like sit there right now, just like not saying another word. It's great because I love that feeling. I recently started talking to this guy who is my friend turned me on to him. He's in Europe, and he's a life coach. I don't feel like I need a life coach. I feel like I'm on the right path, you know. But she spoke so highly of him that I thought I'm going to check him out, you know. So I sent him a few emails and he never responded. So I thought, okay, well, whatever, you know. And then like a week or two ago, he responded and he said, "Oh, your email got into my spam, and you know, let's talk." And
Yeah.
man, he was kind of like that. It was, you know how like when you play with somebody and everybody's using space and it's totally comfortable, you know, to
Yeah.
leave this big space. And then, like you say, the next thing that comes out is, it's like perfect. And so talking to him was like that. And it was real easy. And it was very like, I'd say something, then there was quiet, then he'd talk. and there was quiet. Yeah, and then I laughed, he laughed, and by the end, I felt like I had been talking to my own personal guru. It was it was
Yeah.
really wonderful, you know.
And you can feel it when somebody wants to be that, but the wanting to be that gets in the way of a person actually being that, I think. And when somebody just naturally has that kind of wisdom and they're dropping it organically because it seems natural at that moment, but other people seem to want to have that status, and they say things in kind of like certain kinds of ways to make it sound like it's deep. But to me, Charles just has the natural version of that for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very cool.
Mhm.
I think Taylor said that he was. Oh, he wasn't sure if you were playing with him, but because Taylor goes to UNT, so he said uh, he was there in 2017.
There being
UNT.
UNT, yeah,
No.
that's not,
So
yeah.
Taylor has some questions, and he's a guitarist and he's an interviewer himself, and he has great questions. So I'm going to ask you a few questions. One is he likes to know this probably because he's guitar player. He wants to know what tunes or standards do you go back to maybe broaden your harmonic language and counterpoint.
All right. Interesting. You added counterpoint to that, but which I think is good. I'm going to say right now, and it's become kind of popular in the last few years, is on the complicated side of songs. Jerome Kern hits a certain spot with being like tricky ways to get back to certain places, but nobody else but me is a fantastic example of how you can get interesting places, but still singable, and it's not so rangy and awkward to sing, but you can feel, I mean, there's definitely interest happening underneath. It transposes quickly down a half step in an interesting way. And then, so anyway, that just popped in my head for standard songs. And sometimes there's just, you're playing songs because you know that they're standard and they're going to come up.
Yeah.
All art is going to come up.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it happens to be a great song.
Yeah. 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 But you're right. No one but me. I mean, what is it? No one but me? Is that the
Nobody else.
nobody else but me? Yeah. That is a really cool song.
Yeah, that just popped in my head, but there are so many. I guess that's why however many songs there are, if you just you want to say 200, whatever, maybe less, but of these like iconic, famous, from Autumn Leaves to whatever there will never be another you. There is no greater love. A lot of them are in the fake books, but they really are still teaching us things later. I just played with Ed Bennett, who you might have known. I don't know if
I
he
do
was.
know. Yeah, and I interviewed him too.
Yeah. Oh, great. And I told him last night, it's like, man, I play these songs with different people and I hear your bass lines and I learned something new. Like we played the Gershwin song. We were doing the Valentine's kind of. He said, "Well, what has love in the title?" Oh, I forget the song. Oh no, the Gershwin song that has love in the title. Help me out here.
Well, Our Love Is Here to Stay, or
That was it.
oh,
And he has magic 2-5-1 stuff and he's so clear in the way that he plays it that he'll play the root and the next note, and you'll know what the chord quality is and where the next chord's going to be, and his direction harmonically. You would think you'd need to be a piano player for somebody to like really follow. Oh, I hear where you're leading me and stuff. But when he's doing it, it's like, wow. Yeah.
that's so cool. No, I get it. And did you ever know Eric Von Essen?
I did not. Oh, no, I don't think I met him.
He was in L.A. He died early, but he. I remember I was listening to a gig of his, or was he playing for me, or yeah. Oh, it was my gig, and I had two guitarists and a drummer and him, and it was
No bass.
oh, he was on bass.
Oh, okay.
And he very like a real musical genius guy, and I had sung. It was actually a blues, and I had sung, and they were playing, and then Ed, you could hear it plain as day. He opened a door, and everybody followed him in, and I didn't even come back and sing because there was no reason to. It was so perfect.
Yeah.
He was very good. Very
Bass players have such incredible power,
yeah.
direct harmony. And so it's great to play with Ed. I don't play him with him that often, but he really has a lot of harmonic knowledge. And I mean, he writes music at the piano as well. And so it's not a surprise that he can do that. But yeah, last night was fun.
Nice. Okay, when practicing rubato or solo piano, what is your process for working on a tune and deciding where's the best place to leave space?
Is this still Taylor, the guitar player?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, and I like that. I'm assuming that this might translate over to the guitar for him.
Yes, exactly.
It's interesting that he asked about leaving space on a ballad too, because ballads are gonna maybe inherently have a little more space because they're slower. Maybe. But so the question is like, how do you learn to leave space?
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of that to me happens organically. If you're improvising, you have to practice stopping, like just leave the space and feel good about what you just played and stop playing it and leave the space. And it makes it much more dramatic. So, I mean, you could analyze it to death and say, oh, after 3.5 bars, leave the space and come in on the next thing. And then you start a next phrase on the end of whatever. But that gets a little bit too prescribed. Even though if you're not doing it at all, prescribing something can be helpful. I would say just practice getting out. We practice the starts of our phrases. So this is not just for ballads, this is for anything.
Yeah. Yeah. He's also saying that he is arranging too, and he's applying it to arranging.
Interesting. Yeah. Which in a sense is just, we're spontaneously arranging, composing whenever we improvise. So I think the same principles are going to be in play.
I think that's a quote that you that you should be known for. Practice stopping. I love that. I really love that idea. And it's funny because I was trying to tell one of my students about singing a ballad. It's really interesting. You can hear a jazz singer sing, and they can swing, they can do all kinds of stuff, and with an up tempo thing. But you really hear when they sing a ballad if they're really, to me, like, I mean, I'm not being snobby about it. It's just a fact. If they're a jazz singer and they're singing a ballad, they're going to phrase intimately, and they're going to stop after certain words to, even if it's for a hair, just like a slight pause, just to, like you're speaking. And because it's our job to touch our vision so much that we're singing about that the audience actually sees it, and goes along with it. But it's kind of fascinating to me, like certain singers, when you teach, you hear a lot of singers just say the sentence, let's see, I don't know what I could show, as a ballad, but let's see. Love is funny or it's sad. If you just go, you can say it like that. And if it's really your perspective to say it like that, it's not so horrible. But when you say it like love is funny, all of a sudden there's a different juju in there,
Yeah.
And so that's what I listen for. And I wonder, do you know, I don't want to put you on the spot. Do you know lyrics to these songs?
Oh, I like when you were singing, I was like, I know key lyrics and then I forget other key lyrics. So I'm not like encyclopedic and know all the lyrics, but I understand the song and know a lot of the lyrics. But there are probably not enough songs that I know all the lyrics to.
I mean, you hear You hear instrumentalists talk about that. But I don't think it's in the rule book. I think if you're a sensitive player and someone's singing, you're listening to the lyrics,
Yes.
and responding.
I'm always listening in the moment to the lyric and listening to the story and listening to how that person delivers the story, kind of like what you were just saying a second ago. So to not be in touch with that, I think, is to miss what was largely the point of the song when those standards were written for whatever show they were part of back in the day.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, we're talking about that music. I think it does hold true to non-vocal songs as well.
Yeah. Actually, this is a good moment just to maybe play a song, if you don't mind. I know it was a long time ago, but I loved it, from Madeline Eastman's record with you. And I don't know, you mentioned Do I Hear a Waltz, that one, or...
I'm not on, I mean, yeah, I don't remember that too well, but what are the songs on that record?
Let's see. There are...
The Donny Hathaway one came out pretty nice. I think I arranged it. But
gorgeous.
Stuff and,
we could play that. Let me see if I... well, let's see. Here we go. This is, when I heard this, I was both enthralled and bummed because I had been singing the song since I was in college. And I was like, oh, I can never do the song because it sounds so good. It's one of those classic arrangements that you don't even want to sing afterwards because it's so good, So that's how I felt. So Someday We'll All Be Free. This was a Donny Hathaway song. And this was the great singer from San Francisco, Madeline Eastman, with Randy Porter. And who else was on this record?
Rufus Reid was on the bass, and I think it was Akita Tana on the drums.
I think so, yeah.
And maybe Mike almost played on some trumpet on a song or two.
Yeah, okay, so this was from the Speed of Life record. If you cannot hear this, Randy, let me know.
I can hear it.
Sorry, that something happened. Sorry about that.
Hang on to the world as it spins around. Just don't let the spin get you down. Things are moving fast. Hold on tight, and you will last. Keep your self-respect and your manly pride. Get yourself in gear and keep your stride. Never mind your fears. Brighter days will soon be here. Take it from me, someday we'll all be free. sky. Sing your greatest song, and you keep growing, going on. Take it from me someday. We'll all be free. Take it from me someday. We'll all be free. Take it from me someday. We'll all be free.
That's great.
Wow, that's been a minute.
Yeah, it has, hasn't it? Oh, it's
Yeah.
from, well, 2003.
So Mike almost was like 12 years old back then, I think, on trumpet.
Yeah, it was really, really nice. Um,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Make that not happen. I'll be right back.
Okay. He's coming back, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm not going far, I promise.
Maybe he's looking for the cover.
And we're,
Is that a Rhodes there?
that is a Rhodes, yes. What do you think?
Wow.
Yeah.
Gotta love a studio that has a Rhodes in it, man.
I got lucky, yeah, I mean, I had one a long time ago, and then like many people, got rid of it, and now it lives here. I don't really feel like I need to travel with it and take it to gigs because I have a pretty good setup that's fake.
Yeah.
But in the studio, it's nice to have the real deal.
I was talking with Rhoda Scott yesterday, and she was talking about, how a lot of people play fake B3s now, and,
Yeah.
it's not really great.
Yeah, I don't know. It's funny. I just had a conversation today about somebody said, "Hey, there's going to be a B3 at the gig. Do you want to play that instead of the piano?" And I have a B3 here, and I play a little bit, but I'm just not comfortable enough to do it on a whole gig.
Yeah. It's an awful lot to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's such an instrument unto itself. I mean, I'm not even talking about schlepping. I'm just talking about just knowing how it works and all that. I'm pretty entry level.
Yeah. That's all that Rhoda plays is the B3. She played a little piano when she was younger, but
Yeah.
once she hooked into the B3, that was it.
Yeah. No, it's instrument.
Yeah, pretty interesting. Are you a teacher as well?
Yes,
Do you teach at a university or just more private?
I have. I just recently I've taken time off from that, but I've been at Lewis and Clark for a lot of years, and before that, I've been at. I was at Portland State. I was at U of O. I was in Nevada at UNR, in Reno. So yeah, I teach a lot. I have private students. Definitely taught through the pandemic. Things like this.
Yeah. Has your teaching changed over the years?
That's a good question. I think a lot of the stuff is the same. When I first started, I might have had some pretty nerdy, geeky piano exercises that I thought just specific to piano that were going to be helpful. And sometimes I feel like those get in the way of the bigger, learning the more important things. Like, like if you're trying to learn how to phrase something that feels comfortable and improvise, like anything that resembles a jazz version of Hannon or something like that may not be what you really want to be working on. So maybe early days I had some goofy technical stuff that I wouldn't lean towards now, but I think most of the stuff, many things are similar, and I'm still big on flexibility and being able to play this or that, and to handle the in the moment improvisation. There's some things that just don't change, like having voicings that are ready to go, but then being able to play inventive lines against those things. I've been teaching that stuff for so long. I think it, I haven't had to change a lot of it because I think we still need to do a lot of the same things.
Yeah. Um, let's see. Sorry. My question went like this. Zip. It was
a question, though. Has my teaching changed? I myself that much, and if so, is it better or is it just different? And if it's the same as it ever was, how can I be inspired about like teaching the same thing over and over again? Should it change? So it's pretty good question, actually.
Yeah. I mean, of course, teachers always say I learn from my students. Do you have students who by teaching them, you're like, oh, yeah, wow.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I've taught people coming from all sorts of different backgrounds, and I don't know anybody who's come from all the backgrounds, And so, yes, hearing somebody who maybe has like a certain perspective that I didn't have, I can definitely, it'd be silly not to be open to learning from them.
Yeah. Do you in your work, do you cover many different styles, or do you stick with kind of the jazz genre, or?
In my work as a performing jazz pianist, to answer that question, I've been a little closer to acoustic music that resembles bop or post bop or something like that. And so I am not as eclectic as I used to be. I still get the occasional, like I'll be playing with Bobby Torres in a Latin band because we're old friends, and I used to do that a lot more. Occasionally I'll do other things, and I'm in the studio. So if something comes up, if I'm working on something with somebody, and I don't jump in very often, but on somebody else's project, but if that were to happen, I feel like I had a pretty diverse background and interest in different music. But it's as a player on my own gigs, it tends to revolve around acoustic music that's improvised. It's pretty close to traditional jazz, I guess. No.
Yeah. When you say acoustic music that's improvised, are you saying free music, or are you saying just lots of improvisation within the structure?
The latter more, though I also have really admired and elevated in importance. I guess this is something that's come along maybe later for me, the ability to improvise with tonality based improvisation, like a classical, like improvising a 3-part fugue or something with counterpoint. That's kind of when Taylor asked that question about counterpoint as well as other harmonic information about on a ballad or whatever. It's like, well, I kind of up when I hear that, because I kind of try to listen in real time to music and take as much as I can. I'm not really a bookish learner these days, but I want to be able to improvise with that type of integrity where things make a lot of sense, and I can hear I can play what I hear and hear what I play. I often improvise from no starting point and just start playing and try to make a spontaneous composition in that moment, which may not be jazz, but I think sets me up to play jazz well.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm booking this place down here called Kulak's Woodshed, and I'm trying to set up a little series specifically on Thursday nights that covers a bunch of different music, Brazilian and new music, which is what my friend Vinny Golia wanted to call it. I was going to call it free, but I didn't want people to think it was free. But free music, some people might call it avant-garde, but that's kind of their vague terms. But so guitar night and vocal singer night and stuff like that. So But somebody sent me something regarding playing on the free music night, and he said, "This isn't really jazz." That's what he said. So, and then I listened to it, and I mean, I remember talking to what's his name? Hold on one second. Let me get my brain cells working. Um, Gerald Clayton, and he said, I don't really call it jazz. I call it free." And which I thought, okay, that's an interesting perspective. So this music that I heard from this guy who thought he might want to play on a Thursday night that was free music, I I couldn't call it any other music, any other kind of standard genre other than jazz. But it wasn't jazz and, maybe how some people think of jazz. But I think improvisational music definitely has a foot in the jazz genre, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Getting into defining things can be trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I also have this group, six or seven singers, and we're a cappella. We formed after a workshop with Rhiannon, the improvisational singer.
All
And
right.
we're called Fish to Birds. We've been together about eight or 9 years, and we just start wherever. We
Yeah.
come together. We have, kind of little things that we do. Like if many times, if somebody's doing something, another person will come and harmonize with them. And we do kind of counterpoint, and it's really great. It's fun.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
I've worked with her a time or two, so she's fantastic.
she is fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we all have like meeting points, either like with things that we've worked out. And it's like, okay, I know I can do this, and this is how I tend to go to this thing when I improvise. But it's, I mean, I'm just always inspired and amazed by Bach. And I feel like with that alone, I'll always have somebody to look up to. Like, it's like, okay, you want to improvise? Look at what this could potentially be, what you could potentially do. And I mean, I don't think any human has ever gotten there, but it certainly sets a standard for like how, with just like a few notes, how you can move to the most amazing places.
Yeah. Yeah. So many people talk about Bach.
Yeah.
Yeah. Liz has a question. When arranging, what is your thought? Reharmonization. How far is too far or not far enough? And what is your thought on altering a melody note to fit a reharmonized set of changes?
Oh, well, John Coltrane would say, yeah, do it. Because if you look at Bach Soul and and how it's like, what this bar goes to a E minor 7, and it's like, oh, that doesn't fit the melody. Well, then make the melody a G, and it's not in the scale, whatever. So there's times when it sounds hip. Even the song you were singing, Not But Beautiful, Darn That Dream, everybody plays a wrong note in that melody because it fits the chord, and it just seems like the thing to do.
Which note?
Never say never,
Which note is wrong?
On which song?
Darn That Dream.
Darn that dream. Let's do view. Paradise, or whatever the lyric is. A lot of people play a chromatic 2-5-1 there. And Mike Crawford was the first to point out, it's like, oh, which way do you play it? And I'm like, what do you mean? He said, well, a lot of people play a different chord there. And you go back to the original recording and you realize that it's like a flat 3 diminished chord there with, the interval of the 6th relative to the key that you're nerdy here. And so Mike, being the wonderful overall musician that he is, and of course, consummate accompanist, would be aware of that. And he's like, okay, are we going to do the thing where you change the melody note? So to answer Liz's question, Mike is open to both. And I can't remember what we did on that gig. We had a 2 piano concert, but I lean more towards don't change the melody note, Liz. In arranging, I like to keep the melody note and mess with as much as possible, because I feel like, letting the cat out of the bag, if you start accommodating what your harmonic preferences are for something and you take the melody out, things can get pretty loose, and you might lose something really important rather than gain something really inventive. You might lose something more important.
Interesting. Yeah.
I've played a lot of wrong melodies in my day too. So part of it comes as a harmonizer out of just not even really knowing what the right melody is.
Me too. I mean, especially when you've been doing standards for so long. And then I remember what somebody came up and said I was singing something wrong, and I was kind of stunned. And I was
Yeah.
like, I've been singing it for 40 years like that, but that doesn't mean it's right.
Yeah. And sometimes we learn melodies, it just becomes convention to do it differently than the composer originally wrote it. And
Yeah.
a lot of versions of that. I mean, we all play the wrong first chord to Stella by Starlight by the composers, but we like it and we do it. Didn't change the melody, so I guess we're cool. We play the wrong first chord to But Not For Me, technically, but
Huh.
most people I play with, let's just do the 2-chord first. Now there was another part of Liz's question, something about, what was it about how to
Well, reharmonization, how far is too far or not enough?
Well, I say it's all too far if you cannot play it correctly. So whatever the song, and like correctly, I don't mean to sound too legalistic, but if you can't actually play Happy Birthday with the chords that I would refer to as like in phase, or like da da 1 da da 5 da 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 1 da 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 da, probably 4 chord da da da. If you're not able to do that,
Yeah.
then anything other than having a right sense of that, or like the more logical sense of that, is going to be probably too much. But if you're Jacob Collier and you're breaking every rule and you can hear everything all at once, then I'm not going to correct him on anything. Beautiful.
Right.
But sometimes I refer to some music as beautiful nonsense. It's
Yeah.
like, it does not play by the rules. It seems nonsensical, but it's gorgeous. And it can be like that. It broke all these rules. It's just beautiful sound next to beautiful sound. And now, after a while, I go back to Bach, though. Beautiful logic is also like, it's just such a compelling thing to me.
You kind of touched on that. For me, as a singer and playing with players who do tend to alter the harmonies, one thing that I'm not in favor of is if you're playing kind of an altered harmony on the A section and then you get to the B section and it goes back to the way that we know it. So a lot of times that really just does not appeal to me, because you've already set up this mysterious, beautiful thing in the A section, and then all of a sudden you're not. So, and I mean, I think continuity in lots of things in music is very important.
Right.
So that's just one of my pet peeves, in playing.
Experienced that more than once, it sounds like, or you wouldn't be saying that, but I can imagine that being a problem if you like, I have this really cool arrangement for the A section on any particular song, and then you don't have the ability to sustain it for the bridge, on that given song.
Yeah.
But if you're encountering like more than once or twice, that seems a little sloppy.
Yeah. It's a little annoying. And every now and then, I forget what song I do. There's a song, I can't remember right now, but it's a standard. And in this one spot, I just hear a different note and a different chord. And it probably, some people get annoyed with that, I mean, I've changed the chord to accommodate the note, but it's just something that I hear that I just prefer. I mean, I don't have to sing it like that, but I like to.
Yeah. So there's no too far, I don't think, for harmonization, and it's all whatever we like. But I have really noticed in some earlier recordings that I don't like it in myself when I didn't really get the like the depth of what the composer had in the original version. So until I feel like I can get that flow and understand it a little better, I mean, I don't have to understand it, any more than would be a reasonable amount to me, but I don't want to not get it at all.
Yeah. I think now would be a good moment to possibly play. Um, let's see. Well, I know these are some older ones. Let's see. There's this. This is from your site. The song is you, or there's.
That was I don't even know why that's up there. That was like, I have a nice piano in here, and at one point I was teaching on another piano, and it was on a phone on the side. It's really weird. I don't even remember it, so I'm surprised that's there. Sorry, move on. What was the other option?
Let's see. Well, there's signed, sealed, and delivered. Is that
Yeah,
is
yeah.
that something that might show what we're talking about?
It would show me like how far is too far. I say, yeah, that's too far. I did sign delivered in 7, and I messed with harmony and melody on the song.
Oh, we
So
got to hear that.
that, like they're older like that. So what I'm doing now would be like, ooh, wow, I wish I had stayed a little closer to this, whatever. But it's pretty fun, and Reinhardt sounds great on it. I mean, like I said, I'm swinging a lot more than back in those days. Are we still? Yeah, I'm swinging more than I used to. So far we haven't heard me do anything that's like spang lang. But yeah, go ahead, play that. Like 5, 6.
okay, so that's cool, and uh, I feel like instrumental music can do that a little easier than vocal music, but I mean, maybe that's kind of a limited thing to say, or to admit, but it seems like instrumental music can do that more, or does do that more. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, for some reason, my brain just went to the national anthem. And it's like all the various ways of singing the melody. And it's like, okay, they mess with the melody. Usually it's not, playing with the harmony so much because it's just,
Yeah,
but John Clayton famously did a beautiful arrangement of that with Whitney back in the day.
yeah,
Yeah, it's easier to do, a lot of musicians cannot hear what they play that well, so that's why I think over the years, I'm trying to play more what I hear. So you can get super bold with, all kinds of substitutions and stuff as an instrumentalist, and it would be really hard to sing that.
yeah.
So
And I've experienced that too. It's
Yeah.
like, where is this
Yeah.
harmony? I'm just going to keep singing the melody.
Wait, I made an error. I came into the control room and it was not heated, and it's like it never did. It's like freezing out here in Portland. It's like, wow, it's been cold here the whole time. So
Oh. Do you want to get a coat or something? I know I have a heater in my room. It's
yeah, would you put your heater on?
sure. Oh, sorry.
That it was a good example of like to answer Liz's questions. How much is too far? I'd say that was too far.
Really? I don't think so.
Okay, well, it's all personal aesthetic.
You know why? Because I could really hear the song.
Oh, good.
I mean, if I couldn't hear the song, which, there are players who play songs. I'm trying to think of. I can't think of names, but some of the more modern, players right now, they could take a song and really stretch, stretch
Yeah.
it to the limit, and you go, oh, wait a minute, is that song,
Yeah.
But it's funny. I mean, there's people like Benny Maupin who lives here and he used to play it a lot. He used to play here a lot, and
Yeah.
before the pandemic. And I'm a big fan of Benny's and really like his songs. I even recorded one with that group, that a cappella
Yeah.
group with a chamber orchestra. But he would play the same songs. Maybe he did this with Charles too. He would play the same songs on every gig, but I really learned from that because I was always trying to change my songs, change up everything. But he played the same song, same head basically, and then, it was a vehicle for different expression because of the day, the players, the whatever, And I thought that was really interesting.
It is interesting. That's a big discussion. Yeah. Like, you can decide what parameters of music you want to say are improvised. It doesn't need to be the melody to a song, or it can be, like you listen to Louis Armstrong and he would rephrase and change a melody a lot. And he taught us about everything we needed to know about jazz.
Yeah.
So if it's okay for him, then like, oh, maybe we can change a melody note and it doesn't need to be the same every time.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I kind of in the past have erred on the side of I want to do a ton of different songs. I don't want to play the same songs back to back, and it's true that sometimes it's rough, like not knowing what you're going to play and when you're going to play it, how you're going to play it. It's a lot of pressure, and sometimes that creates inferior results. But it's maybe superior in bravery,
Yeah.
I like to be ready to just, prepared to completely improvise. If it makes any sense to be prepared to improvise.
That's good. I like that phrase. Maybe that's another quote of Randy Porter's.
I've definitely thought about that because when somebody who has played, you know, like they're going to play a Beethoven sonata, and the minute they start, they have such command. But I envy that. But at the same time, I really admire improvisation. So, like, you know, improvised music should sound composed, so that you sound, you know, when you play it, it sounds like you got your, like, wow, you're just making that stuff up, and it sounds like. And then composed music, though, should sound improvised, so it doesn't. You got it down so much that it's always going to be
like in the moment. Yeah, I recorded one of let's see, I recorded this Scarlatti tune with Larry Coons and Josh Hanna, and it was really beautiful song, perfect to split up between guitar, voice, and piano. And I went to hear it online, and I found Horowitz doing it as a solo piece, and it was like he was improvising. He was playing it like a jazz player, and he played a few notes that were not on the page.
Oh wow, that's pretty bold, heretical.
Yeah, but it was so beautiful. His phrasing was so personal and
Was
jazz.
that a concert that he did? You know, in Moscow or wherever it was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing. Oh, Lori Bell says hello.
Hey, Lori. Wow.
And Leonard Patton is here. Hi, Leonard.
Oh, hey, Leonard. Remember me?
We spoke of you, Leonard, already.
Fondly.
Yeah, fondly. Absolutely. Oh, yeah, we were going to. I want to hear you with that Dave Friesen thing, if you don't mind. The Name of a Woman.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure about this picture. It's kind of interesting. But
Where do
you'll see. See this picture? Right here?
I'm sorry. Yep, I'm on the iPhone right now, and it's like super small on my.
Oh, well, it's a picture of a studio, maybe. I don't know, or like maybe it's Dave's studio or something. The name of it looks like he might have posted it himself. So let's hear it.
I think it was recorded here. I should remember that. But yeah, it was.
So sorry, this is Dave Friesen on bass and Randy on piano and Alan Jones on drums. That was beautiful. You know, your playing is beautiful. And I have a question actually about what's something you just said. When you said that improvised music should sound composed, and actually that's what I was thinking of when I heard you. It's very your thoughts are very clear, and
Thank you.
yeah,
That word was almost a joke. I use clarity so much in teaching that it's like students probably get tired of hearing it, but it takes a lot of intent and clarity for anything that you're thinking of in the moment to get across the room and to the other side to somebody sitting in the back, because sometimes we think we're saying something and nobody gets it. So it takes a little more clarity, or maybe a lot more sometimes, than we are either projecting or we think it takes.
yeah. You know, I know that all too well. For singing, or for me, maybe because of my lifetime of listening, or what I've allowed myself to do in singing, or I don't know, for whatever reason. If I just let's see if I can put this into words. If I just sing freely, um, I'm not sure that it's as good as if I have a little bit in mind of where I'm going. Like my it's so hard to talk about because it's not really a physical thing, and it's just not it's not something you can put your hands on. It's it's in this aesthetic
And
universe.
yeah. You know what helps too? For me anyway, it's helped to think in terms of confidence, though I haven't always liked that word, because, somebody says, oh, just have confidence. And if you just go in there with confidence, it's going to be good, because you want expertise, because you don't just want confidence from your pilot when you get on a commercial airline,
Yeah, I can do this. Yeah.
I can have soft-spoken, maybe even self-deprecating expert at the helm of that plane, but I certainly don't want some blustery person with overconfident that doesn't know what he's doing or she's doing. So when I'm improvising, sometimes I have to practice feeling confident about what I'm playing, and I might be experimenting and like dinking around. It's like, well, all that's fine, but can you do that and make it sound full and confident so that it would reach the back of a room and reach somebody else's imagination? It takes a little.
Do you experience that there's a little bit of it's like a focus, like right before it comes out, it's like I'm going for that.
That can happen. There's so many different ways. I mean,
Yeah.
like if you're in the zone, maybe you're not thinking at all.
Yeah.
And there is no, I'm going for this, because anything that's not, you talk about being in the moment, that's kind of being ahead of the moment. And when people say, oh, you have to hear what you play, or, hear it before you play it, that's complicated to me, because if you're hearing things ahead of the moment that you're playing them, then it's like, I think maybe to me better. Oh, wow, I don't even know if I can say it now. It's like playing it when you're hearing it, when you're playing it, and it's one thing. Like, I don't need the piano to hear it, and I don't need to hear it in order to know that, yeah, if I go to the piano and it made no sound and I hit that, I would know what it sounded like. If I didn't use the piano, I can hear it in my head. There's all that support of being solid. I don't know if all that makes sense, but I've just learned also that confidence plays a role in all of this.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like you say, I don't think there's any one rule. I think it varies, and it's fascinating to me because it directly relates to voice technique. I find that when I have that thing that I'm talking about, that going for the note in voice technique, the note comes, and it's really easy and it's accurate, and but maybe voice technique is different than creating, as far as being, singing and just singing, so
Yeah, improvisation and composition are so profound. I mean, the impulse to be creative, you would think happens a split amount of time before the actual thing is going to happen, because you have this impulse and then you go for it. But that kind of insinuates that you could have an impulse and not do it. And when I remember being in Mick Goodrick's combo back at New England Conservatory, and he would say, "Okay, you guys, sit at your instrument, don't make it on yet." And that was a different there because there's two cool things that he did. The one where he was talking about that, like your impulse to play. He said, we're playing, like, say we're playing a blues. He would say, whatever you feel like playing, don't do that, but do. And it was really interesting because very facile group. And he was so messed up. Like he just always wanted to do the first impulse, and he didn't have the ability to change. And it is kind of messing with your head to think in those terms. It's like there's that impulse, and then there's also maybe a time to reconsider, like, do you want to play that? And I'd rather personally just be able to play all in one big moment without having to double check my impulses, musically.
Yeah. It's funny when you were talking about McPherson. I was thinking about Mick Goodrick, yeah. When I was at Berkeley, 72 to 75, and that was when he was there too. And one of my friends was a guitar student, and for the first 6 months, he didn't take his guitar out of the case. He would go to Mick's apartment, and they had a lesson. No guitar playing, and then finally Mick said, take out your guitar. And so my friend, of course, was like, totally nervous, And Mick said, yeah, play me something. And so he played, and then Mick said, play me what you're afraid of playing. And so my friend played everything he could think of, and he noticed that Mick had like slowly started looking out the window, kind of like, and so, which made him more uncomfortable. And at the end, Mick said, what was I doing? And my friend said, nothing. And Mick said, right. And so my friend forevermore remembered that, it was like space, nothing, practice stopping,
Well, yeah, he was deep. He's definitely one of those guys. I said, so there are some teachers that you could feel fine with not picking up your instrument or taking it out of the case for repeated lessons. And that's what I was saying about Charles McPherson. But Mick Goodrick had so many things to share that I thought were like that too.
Yeah. That's cool. I didn't realize you were in Boston too.
Yep. Just for that year, I was studying with Fred Hirsch and Jackie Byard. So that was cool.
And Fred Hirsch was in Boston too?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
At New England.
Yeah.
And was Jackie at New England also?
Yes.
Yeah. What year was that?
83, 84, that year. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Or was it? Yeah, I think that was it.
Yeah. See, you remember the year.
It goes back, yeah.
I mean, that's easy because it was only 1 year and you were there.
Yeah, I transferred. I probably should have stayed, but I was kind of mad. It was like, I went there and the transfer credits didn't work out that well. And I just thought, what, do they just want my money? What's going on? And, were they like saying, no, you didn't take our theory and you should have taken this. And they kind of put me back to be a sophomore rather than stay at my age level. And I thought I could work on my stuff somewhere else. But I did make, wonderful people were there, and I made good, in that short amount of time, friendships. Bruce Barth was there, Rachel Z, Joel Weiskopf, there are a lot of people there.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, well, I think we touched on it, but I was going to ask you after I heard this last piece, and I thought of your improvisation like composition, and I was going to literally ask you, how do you practice that? How do you prepare for that? And kind of related, I heard Keith Jarrett live in Japan, I don't know, 8 years ago, something like that, and with his trio, and I think it was one of his last concerts, but what totally blew me away was his improvisation, of course, which basically was almost the whole song, right? he would do, it was like a motif, you know, three-time motif, and then using the end of that motif to start another motif for three times, using that end to start another one for I mean, literally, the whole song. And I was so blown away, not because, you know, educationally, you know, he was doing that, but it was so artistic, and it blew me away to think how long he had to have worked on that to become such an expert at doing
Motivic.
that artistically. So I'm just wondering, did we already touch on that, or
Well, there are basic parts to that he's always been good at. So that he probably, if you're asking specifically, I'm not the Keith Jarrett expert that probably other, maybe even listeners here are. But one thing I know is that he can play what he hears. So a lot of people, they'll say, "Oh, I'm working on stablemates," or "I'm doing this or that." I say, "Cool." And then after a while, I'll say, "Hey, can you harmonize, you know, Danny Boy or Somewhere Over the Rainbow?" And they can't play the melody or come up with common sense chords in the moment. And I think we need to have that basic foundation of how does basic 1-4-5 harmony work. And now, and a lot of people do have that too. But then to be able to do it at the high, like what Keith does is amazing. What Fred Hirsch does is amazing. Like people who can just improvise, like right in the moment, hear what they want to do and compose. And like I said, I followed a lot of classical improvisers. There's Gabriela Montero. There's other people who improvise Mozart cadenzas. I forget the guy's name. And they play in the moment and come up with stuff, but they have command of basic harmony, and what they hear melodically, they know where it is on their instrument. So Keith, I think, has always been able to do that. And then with the good sense of composition, with motivic development and all that, you can just compose on the spot.
And so getting back to my original question, actually with you, when I said that your improvising sounded like composition, as you had referred to previously, is there a way that you practiced doing that, or did you
Part of it is
just answer the question?
Oh, I don't know if I interrupted you. Did you finish your question? Sorry.
Well, I was just wondering if you just answered the question by saying what you said about Keith. You know,
Well, then, ingredient is it sounds like a composition. It sounds composed and it sounds confident too. If you not only have an ending, and then like what sometimes I call it like a loud silence, or you can really tell where the space is, but also the amount that you play in your phrase. Like there's a way to make it sound like it's a song. So I used to improvise not just like, oh, chord scale theory, like this is what you learned at Berkeley or wherever, you know, like this scale over this chord.
Yeah.
But play a song, whatever that song is, and then write a new song that has about the same pacing over that, like right now. Make it up, and it's going to have repetition. You're going to have to remember the A section when you go back and do it again. And putting yourself under that kind of pressure to feel compositionally solid is harder than you might think. You know, one might think if you don't practice that, it's going to come up. So yeah, I've done some of that in the past. I mean, I'm not a regular practicer anymore anyway, but just, you know, to have that in the background is like, oh yeah, I want to be able to make up a song right now, AABA or ABAC, yeah, and remember it.
It is tricky to go back and remember that. I've experienced that too. It is tricky.
Yeah, especially you come up with the blues. It was 12 bars. It's like, oh, I felt good about that. And then you solo for like however long, like, you know, 8 courses. It's like, oh, what was that head again?
Exactly. Right. What are you? What's kind of on your bucket list?
The bucket list or things I want to do. Let's see. What is on my bucket list? I don't know. That I probably do have things. Yeah, I would like to do that I haven't yet done. That kind of thing.
Yes.
Oh wow. Or maybe not that I haven't done, but I'm not doing too much of. It is nice to play as a piano player in trio in different places, and I have a hard time booking anything. I'm not good at making phone calls and doing that kind of stuff. But I suppose on the list is like doing a bit more of that. It's funny, playing solo I played a couple concerts recently that were solo, and I did enjoy that, but it's kind of also a lot of focus, it's like you get all that focus. I don't really enjoy, it's like playing solo. I wouldn't want to tour playing solo all the time, but that's still it. I would do it some. I do enjoy on a good piano. Playing solo can be very rewarding. So trio, some solo. I take every Charles McPherson gig that I can that comes along. So I want to keep working with him, and other things. I'm also always busy here in the studio. Like I want to be able to get a good sound, like it's like, so that if ever I want to be able to capture a nice, like say I was going to play trio or solo, that could be represented well. And for some reason, that one seems like almost the hardest thing out of all of them, because nothing ever sounds right.
God. Sorry for laughing.
It's
kind of the endless issue, isn't it, for us?
Oh, it's ridiculous. It's like, that's not what the piano sounds like. Like, $500,000 later, I got a couple mics and preamps. It's like, why does it still not sound right?
It's funny. I had just produced a singer, and the engineer has a Steinway in there, and it's kind of relatively new purchase, over the last year or so. And I don't have the best setup here, but like when I play my CDs and stuff, sounds great.
Yeah,
so when I listened to what he had sent me, I thought, wow, man, I don't hear the gorgeousness of the piano, and why? Why don't I? It sounds kind of like I'm listening on tiny little, speakers or something. Why? If I hear a regular CD and it sounds great, why shouldn't I hear that coming through too? Of course, it wasn't mastered, but still.
Well, if it's mixed, it's tricky, and that's been a lot of what I've heard back from my own piano. I either use I've got Sheps, I've got Neumanns, I've got 414s. I'll try all these. I've got 2 preamps and all that stuff, and it still is like, oh, that sounds tinny, that sounds thin, and and I listen to something from Avatar, or something that James Farber or Marciano did at Systems 2 when they were. It's like, that sounds so good. I hate those guys. How do they do it? And I do have a nice piano. I do have mics, but it doesn't hurt that a lot of times, if it was Bill Charlap playing on the right day at a beautiful studio, everything comes together sometimes, and you just get that magic sound. I may be getting close though. My wife thinks I'm crazy, because I just obsess about it.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
On this particular project too, when the piano would do the intro alone, it would sound pretty nice. But then when the band came in, it was, that beautiful sound was kind of lost.
Technical things that I've done to try to avoid that, but that would bog down the little bit of remaining time we have here. So yeah.
Well, you don't have to go into that.
Miking techniques.
Yeah, we can just leave it at that. Miking techniques. Okay. So, do you in these days, do you do your studio? Do you record people's records, or do you do arrangements, or how do you use your studio right now?
Generally, I do whatever I'm involved in. I'll record my own records here, but I also do other people's records as well. And I've been pretty busy lately. Rebecca Kilgore has an album out here. I've done stuff for Lori Enriquez, who's a Grammy-nominated children's writer. She's great and an old friend. I can't think of all the projects. Charles McPherson recorded here. A lot of people have recorded here. But I got a funny picture of a famous LA drummer. Does anybody know who this is?
Oh yeah, that hack. Joe LaBarbera.
Stuff when Bob Magnuson was here with Mike Wofford and some sessions.
Oh, that must have been fun.
Yeah. Hey, Joe. Anyway, yes, I do recordings for other people, and most of them are jazz, sometimes classical. During COVID, all that shut down, lockdown, I did a lot of work in the studio. We were streaming here because we were able to safely put somebody in a room with a separate door. I have a bunch of doors, like 5 different doors. So before vaccination, somebody would come in, we're all masked up. They'd get in a room with a camera in that room, and we all had headphones on, and we were streaming jazz at a time when nobody was meeting with anybody in other situations because it didn't seem safe. But here we could do that. So once a week on Sundays, we were streaming live, playing with headphones on. They'd come in here, and I wouldn't let anybody like hang out or do anything. They had to leave right away. And it was kind of fun. I don't know how you do it. I mean, keep, streaming. It was a lot of work to stream once a week, and you're doing this for an hour. You're doing this all the time.
Yeah, well, in the beginning, I did it 6 days a week for 9 months. But, I didn't have anything else to do. Then, then I went down to 3 days. And that was, then by then I just was comfortable. Like I wanted some more of my own time. And so that's what I do now. Mostly 3 days, unless I have something, that needs to have an archive stuck in there, So, yeah, and then I put up the archives too, because I feel like, then people can just pop over on the Facebook or YouTube and just see what's going on, and so, yeah, but I don't know why I have the impression that I'll just keep doing it until one day I just go, okay, that's enough. But it's so interesting to talk to people. I mean, when am I going to sit down and talk to you for 2 hours? It's not going to happen. Even if I came up and recorded at your studio, I wouldn't sit and talk to you for 2 hours.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting, and I get to meet musicians all over the planet, which is, again, it's just not going to happen. Probably, I'm not going to pop over to Brazil or France or I mean, I might take a trip, but it's just great, and it's very inspirational. I really enjoy talking to people, as I told you before, and I like the fascinating thing for me, like when I was really having a lot of vocalists come here and do workshops, give clinics. So I must have had hundreds of professional singers give workshops at my house. And what was always fascinating to me was we saw the same thing in the student, but we would say it in really different ways, how to fix it, because of who we were. And I just think that's fascinating. I think it's not only life educational, but also inspirational. It shows everybody that you're an individual and your opinion matters, and the other person's opinion matters, and
Yeah.
I wish that humans would understand this on the planet and not have wars and not, I mean, it's just so it's so important to realize. And I think that's one good thing that the pandemic actually brought was because more people were streaming and online. I feel like, oh wow, there's somebody in Russia who's thinks like I do, or
Yeah.
is a regular human being.
Yeah, we pick up a lot of connection with people, but we, ironically, maybe gained some connection, even if it was electronic, with people in other countries.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. I mean, yeah. I mean, that's why, I'm not going down this rabbit hole, but I think that's why Obama won the first time around, because he was a human being. When he was, when he would be debating, he was human. It was like, oh God, a human being.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's vote for him.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I really enjoy that.
Yeah.
So anything that before we leave, anything that people should look out for? Do you have a gig coming up, or anything, something special coming out?
I keep threatening. I mean, I know you have a probably pretty broad audience, but I think of it also as probably strong in LA. I haven't been to LA in a while, and I've been potentially, I have thoughts of going that direction, but I'm in San Diego fairly often, sometimes with Charles and sometimes just to visit family. But no major projects coming up. I've got some gigs, like I think I'll be at the Stanford Jazz Workshop still, but at the Port Townsend one, at Jazz Camp West, and those places. Frank DeMuro's coming up soon with Kim Nazarian and over there. But yeah, nothing. I don't have any recordings coming up or anything like that, or anything major that I can think of.
Well, if you're coming to LA, I have two spots that I kind of can, bring guests into. One is this Kulak's Woodshed, and we specifically brought a really nice Kawai 7-foot in there.
Oh, good.
And then a home venue called the G Spot, and he has a German 9-foot gorgeous piano, and it's a really beautiful listening room. So if you think
Nice.
about it and think ahead a little bit, and if you
Yeah,
want to do something, let me know.
excellent. Thank you. Yeah, that very well could happen because
Yeah,
it's not that uncommon that I have a couple days off when I'm down in San Diego anyway.
yeah, yeah. Thanks for being on, Randy.
Oh, thanks for having me and waiting a while to get hooked us up, but thanks for being patient.
Yeah, it was really enjoyable speaking with you. And thanks for the 2 hours.
Likewise.
I know it's a chunk of time for people, it's like 2 hours.
That's
Not
right.
not just what am I going to say for 2 hours, but like 2 hours of my time. So thank you. I appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you.
And just to tell people really quickly, it'll be archives this week. Rosemary Butler, Brad Hatfield, Alan Walker, and Philo and Felipe Machado. I don't know if you know them. Do you know them? They're talking about Brazil. Wow, amazing. They're on Sunday. Those are all from the archives. So, and yeah, I just want to mention for those people in LA, Thursday night is guitar night at Kulak's. John Pisano, great guitar player, used to have this guitar night here for 20 years, 25 years, and hasn't done it since the pandemic. So, and you can stream this too from Kulak's on Facebook. But if you're in LA, I highly recommend it. It's Will Brahm and Andrew Renfro, who are two amazing guitar players, jazz guitar players. And then Sunday, the end of the week, is Cal State Northridge is going to have two ensembles and a jam session. So yeah, if you're in LA, those are some fun things to do. And thank you, Randy Porter.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks. Have a good day.
Thanks. You too.